Good morning, Year 11. This is your briefing on Monday, the 27th of April. Before we get started, please make sure that you've got all of your equipment out ready and your self-quizzing books are out as well, so that your teacher can come round and check those now. I'll give you just a little bit of time to ensure that that is all done. So before we get started on the revision that you should be doing for English right now, I just wanted to give you some reminders about when each of your exams are. So you've got both of your English literature exams first. The first one, paper 1, is on the 11th of May, and that is in 2 weeks. And then your second literature paper is the following week on the Tuesday, followed by English language on the Thursday. So that comes just before the half term, and then language paper 2 is after the half term. So in your lessons at the minute, you have been covering key literature themes or characters that haven't come up on the exam yet or haven't come on the exam for a long time. And then with English language, you've been covering the questions that carry the most weighting in terms of the number of marks. So for example, your question 5 on language being worth 40 marks, which is 50% of the GCSE. So that's what you've been doing in your English lessons in order to build up towards the exam and increasing that level of independence. And then that feeds into the independent study that you should have been doing outside of the classroom. So that's basically your homework and your revision. And that's not covering any new content, so it's stuff that you've been doing in lessons, and it's basically consolidating that learning at home just to ensure that it is really embedded, it's going over the same things, and it is that repetitiveness of it that is going to really help you to retain the knowledge. And then we've also had intervention. And some of you have been coming to that really, really well, attending each week and completing work in those sessions. And it's there to really, really support you with essentially how to kind of approach the exam and ensuring that you've got that instant feedback so you can be making progress as quickly as possible as the time that we have left kind of rapidly reduces. So with your English homework, you should be focusing on topics that you are the least confident on, or the areas where you've underperformed before in tests. Because revision, homework, is not meant to feel easy. If it feels easy, you're probably revising the wrong things. Because if it's easy, you know it already, and therefore there isn't as much of the need to revise that. Revision should feel challenging. It shouldn't feel completely comfortable. But the whole point of doing it before your exam is so that you experience that feeling and that kind of vulnerability before you're in the exam, where you haven't got teachers' support, you haven't got access to wider resources, and then it's going to be even more daunting. So you want to kind of embrace that feeling outside of the exams and at home during your revision now, rather than waiting to the exam to experience it. So you want to make sure that you are doing the things that you are not as confident on, and build your confidence with that, because that way then you're going to make sure that you are prepared for every eventuality when it comes to the exam. Now, based on previous mocks, my advice to you is that this is collectively as a year group the end of the play with Macbeth. You did not know that as well. So my advice to you is to be looking and revising Act 5, Scene 8. It's the final scene where Macduff and Macbeth have been fighting. Macduff walks in with Macbeth's head chopped off, and then we have Malcolm being crowned king again. So that is one of the key scenes, which I'll come to in a little bit, and that is what you need to be focusing your revision on. With A Christmas Carol, I'd say it's the order of the events and what Scrooge sees with each of the ghosts, because some of that was getting a little bit muddled in previous mock exams. And then what you want to be doing for your English revision is basically tackling exam style responses, completing them in time conditions, and giving them back to your teacher so that you can get feedback on them, and use the English Revision Hub as the basis for all of your revision. Avoid random websites or social media posts, TikTok and things like this, because I know it might feel like quick and easy to watch, and that takes the kind of pressure off you. However, actually, do you know how well informed these people are? Are they saying something that is completely different from what you've been taught? And that may well confuse you before the exam. So it's really, really important that you use the English Revision Hub as the basis for all of your revision. So this isn't about telling you anything new. This is everything that you've been told already, and it's about supporting you to ensure that you are using the resources that are on offer to you. We've done all the hard work. We've collated all of the quotations, the key scenes, the core knowledge, all of that. So you don't have to go rooting through, in the internet or revision guides and things to try and find that. Everything is here, and it's about using it properly. So what you've got here is you've got a past paper for the text Macbeth. And you can see I've highlighted on the Revision Hub, there are past papers on there that you can go and get, and then this can form the basis of your revision. I've then got the big ideas and wider themes for the play Macbeth, and they can be found on the first slide of the key scenes, must revise in capital letters because it's really important to revise it, PowerPoint. And what you should be doing is, first of all, because the temptation will be is to just get started writing a response, but you really need to understand the extract and where it sits within the play as a whole, in order to be able to write an answer that is at least clear, so that at least gets you into level 4. Remember, with literature, that goes up to 6 levels. Now, the trickiest thing to do is try and tackle this extract without actually having an understanding of the kind of thing you're looking for. If you know what you're looking for, that makes your life a lot easier. So look at the question, look at the theme that's there, and we've got ambition, and then look at the wider themes and think about what connects to it. Once you've decided which wider themes connect to it, and I've just highlighted some here, you might have chosen other ones, but then you can really start to think about, well, how do all these themes connect together, and how do they develop, change, shift throughout the play as a whole? Because remember, we're going to be starting from, no matter what, we're going to be starting from the beginning of the play. Even though the question says starting with this extract or this speech or whatever it might be, we start at the beginning of the play and we go through the play in chronological order. It's really important that we do that so we can talk about things like character development, how a character shifts or contrasts to how they were at a different point in the play. So once you've gone through the extract and you've annotated the question with the wider themes, then what you need to do is you need to plan for answering that question. And you can see here that, again, I'm referring to those key scenes, must revise, because they are really, really important. And I promise you that no matter what the question is in the exam in 2 weeks' time, these scenes will be able to be used. So it's so important that we know them really, really well. So I've created this plan for Macbeth as an ambitious character based on using the key scenes that are on that revision hub. So I've made these scenes work for me, and I've picked out what I can from them in order to ensure it's relevant to answering the question. But that's why I've chosen them as key scenes, because they are relevant to all the wider themes that you'll find in the play Macbeth. Absolutely all of them. So they're great scenes for you to know, and you've got them going into the exam, and it doesn't matter what the question is, you can ensure that they work for you. Finally, you need to write a response. It's implementing that knowledge and writing it into a full response in timed conditions, ideally. This is the bit that everyone kind of puts off. No one really wants to do because it takes that little bit longer, and it's hard because it's meant to be, it's what the exam is on, but you are only going to get better by practicing. And I mean, even if you don't do a full response to begin with, if you write an introduction and a paragraph, or 2 paragraphs, or the end paragraph, whatever it might be, implement that knowledge. And it's that as well that helps you to retain the knowledge. Just reading quotations or reading summaries of the play or whatever is not going to help you to retain that knowledge. It's the additional process of implementing it into something else, i.e., a written response, that is going to help you to retain that knowledge, because then that knowledge becomes kind of part of your habits when writing about Macbeth. And that's what we're trying to create. We want to make it so that you go into that exam and it's as easy as possible for you. So on the Revision Hub, I've also shown you here, there are sentence starters that you can use, so that if you're really, really struggling, you've got those on there and you can use those to form each of the paragraphs. And that is the best thing that you can do for your revision for literature. Learn the knowledge, implement it, then you will retain it. And you will be thanking yourself so much when you're in that exam in 2 weeks' time. I showed this slide at the Year 11 information evening, and the heading that night had 6 weeks at the top, and now it says 2 weeks to go until that first exam. And I can't believe how quickly that time has gone, and the exams are coming round really, really quickly now. However, there are still 2 weeks to make a big difference. It's really, really important that we think about the marginal gains here. The difference between one grade to the next is so few. So every mark matters. Thinking about you gaining one extra mark on each question is the difference in a grade in language. A couple of extra marks in literature, or a few extra marks in literature, it's the difference on each question. It's the difference of a grade. It's absolutely huge. So it's really important that we're giving ourselves the best chance to get every single mark possible. And we're not going to do that by doing the same as what we've been doing already over and over. If we're expecting different results, if we want our grade to improve, we have got to do something differently. Because this is my favourite quote, that insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. We cannot be thinking, right, okay, that's it in the exam. All of a sudden, I've not achieved that grade yet, but that's it, I'll get it in the exam. We've got to do something about it now, and we still have time. There are 2 weeks left. So really make sure that you're making every single moment count and all the time that you've got. And remember, you've got your English teachers and myself on hand if you need any support with anything, or you've got any kind of concerns, or you want to have any work checked. Make sure you're getting that feedback for these last 2 weeks, because then the exams will be starting and we've got to make sure that we're making all the gains possible.